Dusk in the village of Oakhaven didn't arrive with a gentle fading of light. It fell like a heavy, suffocating shroud. As the sky bled a bruised, pulsating orange, the elders bolted their doors with trembling hands. Silas watched his grandfather, Eldon, slide the iron deadbolt home, his knuckles white as bone. "When the sun dies, the sunset witch wakes," Eldon whispered, his voice brittle and hollow. "She seeks the warmth of the cradle to fuel her cold, dark heart. Do not look at the shadows, boy, for they have eyes tonight." High upon the crag of echoes, the sunset witch, Vespera, emerged from the mouth of a jagged, weeping cave. She was a silhouette of pure nightmare, draped in a heavy, tattered, dark cloak that seemed to drink the remaining light. The fabric was stained with centuries of soot and salt, swirling and snapping around her in the windless air. Beneath the hood, nothing was visible but a pair of glowing orange eyes that burned with the hunger of 1,000 years. She was a form so twisted and angular that she defied nature itself. Next morning, a chilling, unnatural silence gripped the village. At a small cottage near the woods, Talia found the mother, Lyra, collapsed by an empty cradle. The baby was gone, replaced by a lingering scent of sulfur and a patch of black, biting frost that scorched the wooden floor. "She's getting stronger," Talia murmured, her eyes hardening with the resolve that outweighed her fear. She picked up a single, razor-sharp black feather that lay where the child's head had been. "The more she takes, the longer the night becomes, until the sun never rises at all." Silas and Talia met in the secret, dust-choked cellars beneath the village hall. Surrounded by crumbling scrolls that smelled of rot, they searched for a weakness. "The legends say she cannot bear the golden bleed, the purest, final light of the sun," Silas whispered, pointing to a terrifying sketch of a skeletal figure. Talia nodded, her finger tracing the witch's cloak in the drawing. "She hides her twisted shape because she is made of nothing but stolen shadows. Shadows cannot exist when the light comes from every direction." They ventured into the whispering woods just as the sun began to dip, hoping to find Vespera's lair before she could strike again. The trees here were warped and diseased, their purple bark slick like wet, cold skin. Silas gripped a small, polished mirror in his pocket, his knuckles aching. Beside him, Talia moved with the grace of a hunter, her eyes scanning every patch of shifting darkness. The trees seemed to lean toward them, their branches like long, spindly fingers reaching for their hair. They found her in a clearing, standing perfectly still amongst a circle of dead, blackened grass. The heavy, dark cloak rippled and pulsed as if something, or many things, were writhing beneath it, trying to escape its tattered folds. Vespera was a pillar of gloom against the orange sky, spinning a web of dark smoke between her fingers. The children scrambled into the hollow of a rotting, moss-covered log, holding their breath until their lungs burned, and their hearts felt like they would burst through their ribs. Suddenly, Vespera's head snapped toward their hiding spot with a sickening crack. She didn't use her eyes. She used her nose. Her long, hooked nostrils flared wide, black, cavernous pits that sucked in the forest air with a wet, raspy sound. She began to sniff with a violent, rhythmic intensity, tasting the air for the warmth of youth. She was hunting not by sight, but by the metallic tang of their rising fear. She could smell the very blood pumping through their terrified hearts. The witch began to glide toward the log, her heavy cloak dragging over the dead leaves with a sound like grinding teeth. "I smell the sweet heat of life," she hissed, her voice a dry, agonizing rasp that felt like sand in their ears. Silas and Talia pressed themselves against the damp, rotting wood, their eyes wide and watering. Every time the witch inhaled, the air inside the log grew thinner, colder, and more oppressive, as if she were sucking the very life out of the space around them. As the witch's needle-like, gray fingers reached into the opening of the log, Silas pulled the mirror from his pocket. A stray, dying beam of the setting sun hit the glass, and he angled it with trembling hands directly into the darkness of her hood. Vespera let out a soul-piercing shriek that sounded like breaking glass. Her cloak began to sizzle and smoke where the reflected light touched it. "Now, run!" Silas yelled. They scrambled out and sprinted toward the village, the witch's screams echoing behind them. They reached Oakhaven just as the last sliver of the sun touched the horizon. Talia didn't go to her home. She ran straight to the forge. She found Ferrum, the village blacksmith, and slammed her mirror onto his anvil with a deafening clang. "Don't hide," she shouted to the gathering, frightened crowd. "Vespera is coming, and she will take everyone unless we fight. She is made of the dark. We need every shield, every silver tray, and every polished surface in Oakhaven." The witch arrived at the village gates like a localized storm of shadow. Her tattered cloak expanded until she looked 10 feet tall, a looming specter of pure malice. She raised her long, needle-thin fingers, and from her sleeves crawled shadows that moved across the ground like hungry, multi-headed snakes with tiny, weeping eyes. Silas stood high on the stone ramparts, watching the darkness crawl toward the gates, his jaw set in a hard line of defiance. "Reflect!" Silas's voice rang out across the square. On his signal, dozens of villagers stepped onto the walls, angling their polished shields and mirrors toward the witch. The final dying sun caught the metal, creating a blinding golden web of light that pierced through Vespera's cloak from every angle. She shrieked one last time, a sound that shook the very foundations of the houses, as her tattered form dissolved into a massive, swirling cloud of black feathers. The light had won, and the children of Oakhaven finally breathed the sweet, warm air of safety.